Mr. Chairman.
No, just wait. The cameras. Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's Development and Management Committee meeting. Does any member have any interest he or she wishes to declare? Oh, that's fine, thank you. Could we please approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Move, Chair.
The planning applications. First application, installation of a new shop front with shutter at 88 Manchester Road, Nelson. Do we have any speakers?
I've just been and had a look at the shutters on all the block. I've got the photos as well. It's not the corner. Corner is not. They are not.
We discussed that we're discussing. It is to renewal and submit. They can then be made between renewal and submit. They can then be made between of apply. Between of apply. Members should be minded. Those are my things.
Removal adds to your retail of goods.
I agree with you. On a certain I do appreciate. Is spoilt with goods.
Principle conservation area, because conservation area, if we the pragmatic always support.
Not the front and Councillor McLeod.
And then see what members think. We were lucky enough during this evening. And Eva and a couple of the residents were loitering around with the kids playing on the street. And as I walk in the backyard. This is an excessive planning application for the street end of Terrace Block. Looking at it, and I don't know the names that well, but as he stood looking down, I think Clayton Street and then Albert Street and all the surrounding areas, you can see quite nice, fluent, for want of a better phrase, again, street scene. You can see the rooftops, obvious attractions. It's quite a pleasant street. There's the yard behind you, but in terms of the residential areas, it's quite pleasing to look at. What this is trying to do is square off the entire end terrace, so you lose the roof and it becomes flat. Top of the roof, and you just get this big cube at the end, essentially. That's what the planning application will ensure. So that's what's the word that Sarah uses? Incongruous, yeah, she usually says incongruous. It is incongruous with the street scene. You then have the impact of this public housing. Some residents have uploaded their opinion and also pictures of local back streets and how this extension right up to the back street wall as well as over the roof. You've always the picture of it just becomes flat. And the next door neighbour, speak to us while we're there, anything out of his back windows with that extension being built right out, he'd be boxed in. So yeah, he was quite politely upset about the application. I'll wrap it up, but I would agree myself with refusal recommendations. The prominent roof right there, looking at the street scene, out of keeping with the area. The design itself, the material of the roof, with the slate tiles that we use. Okay, you could condition that if you were minded, but it's being bulky anyway. I don't think you could put that on there. And the overbearing impact on immunity of the neighbours was felt, as we discussed that with the neighbours, partly against it. The whole family came out to speak to us about it. So I won't move anything. I'll be members say, but I'm minded to refuse for the reasons I set out.
Councillor Sutcliffe.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree entirely with what Councillor McLeod has just said, and I have concerns about actually the layout of the windows as well on that elevation. That window not sitting centrally above the door, and it really throws the design out completely. So as well as the bulk and the massing of that dormer, which is just as Kieran said, completely out of keeping with the rest of the street. The layout of those windows just really throws the design out completely. So.
Any other speakers? Councillor.
Chairman, this is where my well, I've got two principles and they're at loggerheads with each other because I can understand the design issues and the appearance, and I do appreciate the impact on the neighbours. I'm less persuaded by the argument that the windows aren't in line with the door, etc., etc. You know, that don't really grate on me. But the other issue is, if we are going to conserve the tourist housing, then we've got to bring it into this century, and we've also got to make it appropriate for the people that want to live in those tourist houses. And there's two things. First thing is the size of households, and if all our tourist housing is going to be 2 up, 2 down, then that doesn't suit a huge proportion of the population, and revise the proposal in order to make it more acceptable in terms of the issues that are highlighted in the report, the impact on the neighbour, and to see whether there's a way forward with a compromise. So that's what I've moved.
You, Councillor, you want?
Yeah, I'm sort of somewhere in the middle of you. Yeah, I agree that people need to get bigger houses as families grow, whatever, build bigger houses. However, looking at this properly today, it struck me that basically, rather than being a dormer, which I would have no problem with at all if it was dormer front and back, it's basically putting an extra storey on and turning it from a 2-storey building into a 3-storey building. And I do have issues with that, so I do think going back and asking for new designs would be, that'd be more in keeping with the area, would be a good thing.
Any others? Is that it you want?
Yeah.
Councillor McLaren?
Yeah, I'll just bring in Neil, if I can. So we're just looking at the MPPF quarters. On the wrong page now. Oh, you're going to. Sorry, Neil. Ashley, you want to come in while I pass my page? You want to?
Oh, yeah, I understand people want to extend houses. I grew up in a terraced house with a family of 5 of us, and into the attic. We didn't have doors, so we managed to do that within the constraints of the property. Any design of dormer, I think the size of this, I agree with Yvonne, it is like another story. It's not it's not a little dormer, a little extension. I can't imagine a dormer being reduced in size enough would be acceptable to the applicant based on what they've submitted, because we will be asking for probably 20% of what they've actually submitted. So they would have to, for it to satisfy for me, it would have to be a radical redesign. So I would still be in favour of a refusal, I think, on that basis.
Councillor McLaren?
Yeah, thanks. I do agree with what Councillor Whip's sentiments were there. Not sure what my question was going to be to Neil, but I was looking at paragraphs 139 and 208 as quoted. Is what Councillor Whip said something that we should be looking at? Or should, you know, you've cited the MPPF there. In terms of planning policy and the guidance that we get, which one takes precedent, for want of another better question?
Through your chair, personal circumstances are what matters. You should be taking into account in law.
Okay.
And that the Supreme Court and High Court, as it was, set that in many instances. Okay. And you take personal circumstances into account when in law, which is the advice I can give you when issues are finally balanced.
So, thank you. I think it doesn't quite do it justice looking at the pictures there. What you're seeing on the windows there is the back street wall, what we'd usually see on a normal terrace. You get your wall with a gate on. That on the previous pictures there, Neil, sorry. Yeah, that one. That is the back street wall. Like I say, you do have your bins against that wall, or the gate leading into the yard. that's the extent of the development that they're wanting to do. It's right. Like I say, it's just they're building a huge cube and putting an extra story on top, as Yvonne captured it there. It's an extra story on top. So understanding what Councillor Whip said and agreeing with what he said, I think Neil clarified the point there. With personal circumstances aren't for decision, and it's the application at hand. So in that case, I would move refusal on the grounds as per the report. I think it's just too big to ask for a dumbing down. I think they have to resubmit it all again and start from scratch rather than defer and get them to come back with something else. It'd be too far away. As Ash said, it's probably about 20% what we'd be looking to agree. This is such an overbearing development. So I'll move refusal as per the reasons in the report.
Thanks to Councillor Sutcliffe.
Thank you. I would like to second that. And obviously, it being an end terrace makes it more difficult because it's much more prominent and facing the opposite direction. Even if it was facing the school, it'd kind of help slightly. I think that it'll feel different. So, based on the design and the fact that I looked for other dormers on there as well. There's one other very shoddy, I have to say, dormer on the block, which is on the rear of the property, sat in the middle of the block. So you don't really see it unless you're looking up the back street properly. But the front has no dormers whatsoever. Because I was thinking in my mind that I've got Councillor Colburn Price ringing in my ears. I'm not used to having Kieran sat next to me, thinking about the design that she talked about small Victorian dormers being acceptable, and I'm inclined to agree normally. But even on this block, that would be out of kilter with the rest of it. There's not a single one on there other than this one, which probably doesn't have permission. I would have thought, looking at it, it's not very well done. And so I'm happy to support the refusal.
Thank you. Obviously, I know this area well. Obviously, I'm the ward councillor for this particular area as well. And as a president, if there's already a dormer on the block, I can't see a hesitation in having another dormer on the block as well. Obviously, in looking at the past couple of years now, the way we've been looking at dormers and obviously looking at the needs of the community as well. I know it comes back into personal circumstances as well, but it's just not feasible, it's not comfortable, it's not economical to purchase more houses either. So obviously, looking at larger families, they are looking at better options, and the better options are for dormers. And we've approved several dormers over the last couple of years, and with this particular one, with the rear one, I can't see a problem with that. I can't see it looking shoddy either. It's a dormer, like all dormers look. And I don't have a hesitation with this particular dormer as well. If you're looking at, with it overlooking the school as well, the top windows of the bedrooms are overlooking the school anyway. So having a dormer overlooking the school will probably be in the same, maybe a few feet higher, but I can't see a problem with that at all.
Councillor Aston?
I agree with Councillor Whip. Rather than refuse again, give him another chance. Let's see if we can come up with a better design, and rather than refuse it.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Let's just bring Neil in, sorry.
if you committee will decide what it wishes to clearly. Chairman, if it comes to a deferral, and I'd like some clarity on what we should negotiate on. I think what we've kind of tended to say, look, design is a matter of opinion and within limitations, but the impacts on people's living environment isn't, and clearly the big issue here would be, as the gentleman who lives next door expressed, is the impact on living environment for that rear extension. Chairman, when I said design is to a degree subjective, there are also limits within that. There are dormers and dormers. This is not a dormer, it's a roof replacement. And I'd like clarity on whether, if it is going to be for a deferral, and if whether you're seeking amendments to the dormers, because these are just out of scale, out of character. The one on the back of the house is a small scale one. There was one indeed on the shop front that we've just discussed above. That's small and relatively in keeping with it. This is about as bad a design as you can get in terms of dormers. It's got no proportionality to the house at all.
Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I just think we're so far away from a deferral and new drawings. I think they need to start from the drawing board again. I think a refusal is appropriate. It's just that out of keeping. It's not just the dormer itself. It's not just the pitch roof aspect on the other comparisons. Yeah, it's not just that. It's the back street. It's the next door neighbour came out, like I said, and he just on it there. It's the neighbours' amenities. It's so far away from what it needs to be. I think a deferral and the instructions to the planning team as to what we deem acceptable in the deferral. We're just so far away from where the starting position. I think it needs to be a rejection and a new application altogether. We're a million miles away from where we need to be on this one. It's such, as Yvonne said, it's a new, you're practically sticking another story on top and outwards to the rear.
Thank you. Councillor Wood, would you like to add anything on to it?
Well, not really. First of all, I'm not talking about personal circumstances. I'm talking about accepting that building upwards on tourist housing stock is an acceptable thing to do. And given all the benefits that brings, it's something that as an authority we ought to be moving towards. In terms of the changes that I would like to see, I express the view that we ought to be looking for addressing the residential amenity issue. Now, how that's achieved, I'm not going to sit here and say this, that and the other. In terms of the upward extension of the property, if they can come forward with a more acceptable design which is less intrusive and more in keeping with the character of the area, then that would certainly satisfy my stance on it. But I appreciate there are a number of people on this committee and we've all probably got slightly different views. So when it comes down to it, it's a dialogue between the applicant and the planning staff to see whether there's any possibility of a meeting of minds. And if it comes back and it doesn't satisfy the majority of members, then clearly there isn't a majority in favour of approving it. So, it's incumbent on the applicants to try and come up with something that would be acceptable, and I reflect on lots of other applications that we've had where we've said, look, go away, see whether you can come back with something more acceptable, and that's been achieved.
Yeah.
So, is that the amendment you'd like to carry, Councillor Wood?
Sorry?
Is that the amendment that you'd like to?
I'm not moving, I moved something originally.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure whether Councillor Tennant seconded it.
You wanted you seconded that, didn't you?
I think it
I'll
was
second
Councillor
that.
Aslam that seconded it.
Okay.
But I'll build
Any other speakers before we move to the vote?
I wasn't sure that. I think I moved with you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happened. I didn't hear.
Clarify that.
I didn't hear Councillor move an amendment. Maybe I
No,
was not
I
listening.
didn't move an amendment, I moved the original
Yeah.
Oh,
proposal.
I didn't hear that then. I didn't hear that. Okay. So where are we at now, Chairman? Just for clarity.
So
I
David
think-
Rick deferred,
Yeah, but-
proposed deferring it, and
Oh.
that's been seconded by Councillor
Okay,
Aslan.
so I missed that.
But you've proposed refusal and Ash Sutcliffe has
Right.
seconded that.
So you vote on
The
this as the
amendment.
amendment,
The refusal.
first, yeah.
Okay, so we're taking a vote on what was moved by Councillor McGladry and Councillor Sutcliffe first then. All those for refusal? All those for?
Against.
Against refusal, sorry. Now we can take a vote
On the
the original motion that was moved by Councillor Wick and seconded by Councillor Aslam. All those for? That's been deferred. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Third planning application is erection of a two-storey.
Chairman,
Yeah.
sorry, so we've deferred it,
Been
but
deferred.
what's the instruction to planning then? What,
Is it on the
to try and,
Chairman, according to the debate, it will be amenity, and obviously council would put that forward, amenity on the neighbours, and see if we can get a better design for the dormers that's more proportionate and more in keeping with the area.
Thank you. Third planning application, erection of a two-storey side and rear extension, two single-storey rear extensions, a side porch and boundary treatment works at 129 Marsden Hall Road, Nelson. Councillor Wick.
Thank you, Chairman. The report says that it's been referred as a potential issue of maladministration. So I wonder, Chair, could Mr Watson explain what this is? It's not often we get a referral on this basis.
Chairman, just to be clear, it can't be referred just on that basis because that's not in the scheme of delegation, but it's associated with the risk of cost. It should have added that in. Because we haven't objected to this, and were they to go to the Ombudsman, it would likely to be found to be maladministration in our view. Chairman, the basic element of this is it's exactly the same as the refuse scheme. And if you refuse something once without any change in policy or any circumstances, material planning circumstances, then you're duty bound as an authority to make the same decision. And we nearly, when I first got here, we nearly fell into that trap on a case in Barrow Ford where the Ombudsman investigated us because the neighbour said that the scheme was approved and it was no different to a previous one. In that instance, they had actually changed it. This is exactly the same. So the same set of circumstances, same planning policy, same issues, one refusal. If you then approve it, any objector going to the Ombudsman would say, well, what has changed? And the Ombudsman would find, we're pretty clear, would say, well, yeah, you're not administering your processes properly because nothing has changed.
Chairman, in that case, I would move refusal for the ground on the ground set out.
Thank you. Councillor Sutcliffe.
I will second that. It's quite clear that any information from the officer is very, very clear on that. So it's quite a simple one for us, hopefully.
Any others? Councillor McLaren.
oh, that's speaking on me. No, I genuinely thought it would have been easy to knock this one down and start again, such is the extent. I'm not being flippant there. This is an encroachment on the whole site. They've got quite a large garden we learnt on the site visit today, both to the rear and to the side. Well, yeah, you can see on the top right there. It's doubled in size, if not more. Volumetrically, probably tripled in size. It's a total redevelopment of the entire site. And I'm not a construction agent or builder, but I think it'd be cheaper and more cost effective to knock it flat and start again, such is the scale of the site. So I'm in support of the refusal for the reasons as outlined in the report.
Thank you. For move to vote. All those for the refusal as moved by Councillor Whip and second by Councillor Sutcliffe. All those for?
That was
That's been used, thank you.
Say for.
Okay, yes.
No, you don't.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.